It is 3 in the morning. The house is silent. The world is asleep, and you are locked in a quiet, desperate negotiation with your own mind. You know you need to sleep. You can feel the exhaustion deep in your bones. And so, you try. You try to relax. You clench your fists and then release them. You command your muscles to soften. You try to empty your mind, wrestling your thoughts into submission. But the more you try to force yourself to fall asleep, the more intensely, stubbornly awake you become. Or perhaps for you, the struggle takes place not in the dark of night, but in the bright light of a blank page. You have a project to complete, a song to write, a problem to solve. You know you are capable. You have been creative before. And so you sit down and you try to force it. You stare at the screen, demanding that a brilliant idea appear. But the harder you try to be creative, the more barren your inner landscape feels. The well of inspiration, which you know is there, seems to have run dry. The intense effort to create has become the very thing that is blocking you. If you have ever found yourself in this strange, frustrating loop, where your intense effort to fix a problem only seems to make it worse, you are not alone. And you are not failing due to a lack of willpower. You have simply stumbled into one of the great paradoxes of the inner life, a place where the rules of the outer world are reversed. This is a gentle exploration of that paradox, the law of reversed effort. It is an invitation to consider that for some of our deepest struggles, the solution is not to try harder, but perhaps to not try at all. We can call this the paradox of effort. In the external world, effort and reward are often directly proportional. The harder you work, the more you achieve. The more you practice, the better you become. But when we turn this same logic inward, to the delicate ecosystem of our own minds and bodies, the equation often fails. When it comes to internal states like sleep, creativity, happiness, or calm, the very act of trying to force them into existence is what pushes them away. The core of this paradox lies in a subtle shift of attention. The primary problem, the desire to fall asleep for instance, is quickly hijacked by a secondary and much more powerful problem, the anxiety about not falling asleep. Your effort is no longer directed at gently creating the conditions for rest. It is now directed at fighting the anxiety you feel about being awake. You are not trying to sleep, you are trying to will your anxiety out of existence. This struggle, this internal fight, creates tension, alertness, and a flood of stress hormones, the very states that are the polar opposite of what is required for sleep. You are trying to smooth the ripples in a pond with a flat iron, and the effort only creates more turbulence. Let's explore how this pattern plays out in our lives. Consider the realm of social anxiety. You walk into a room full of people, and a voice in your head begins to issue commands. You must be charming. You must be witty. Don't be awkward. You begin to apply intense effort to your social performance. You rehearse sentences in your head before you speak them. You meticulously monitor your body language. You analyze the other person's reactions in real time, judging your every word. But because all of your energy is focused on this internal performance and self-monitoring, you are no longer present in the actual conversation. You feel disconnected, rigid, and inauthentic. And the very awkwardness you were trying so hard to avoid is the exact feeling you end up creating. The effort to be perfectly at ease is what makes ease impossible. This paradox is also at the heart of perfectionism. The perfectionist lives by the rule, I must not fail. This turns any creative or professional endeavor into a high-stakes tightrope walk. Every step is fraught with the fear of falling. The effort is not directed toward the joyful exploration of the task, but toward the anxious avoidance of mistakes. A writer, consumed by this fear, will agonize over a single sentence for an hour, trying to make it perfect before moving on. This constricts the natural flow of creativity. It turns the process of writing from a discovery into a trial. The intense effort to create a flawless first draft is precisely what prevents any draft from being written at all. The striving for perfection becomes the ultimate obstacle to producing anything good. And perhaps most profoundly, we see this paradox in our attempts at emotional regulation. A feeling of sadness or anxiety arises, and our first instinct is often one of resistance. We tell ourselves, I must not be sad. I need to be positive. We apply effort to suppress or get rid of the feeling. We distract ourselves. We argue with our emotions. We try to think our way out of a feeling. But an emotion is not a logical problem to be solved. It is an energetic event to be experienced. When we fight a feeling, we are adding a layer of tension and resistance to it, which often amplifies its power. An emotion that is resisted is an emotion that persists. The effort to not feel is what keeps us stuck in the feeling, and it is profoundly exhausting. It is a pervasive myth in our culture that every problem can be solved with more effort and more willpower. We see a lack of success in any area of our lives as a failure of trying. But this is like blaming a person for sinking in quicksand because they are not struggling hard enough. The problem is not the amount of effort, it is the direction and the nature of the effort. For the challenges of the inner world, willpower is often the wrong tool for the job. It is a hammer in a situation that requires the delicate touch of a gardener. The solution is not to try harder, but to try softer. It is a strategic surrender, a wise and courageous act of non-resistance. Imagine someone who is trying to overcome their anxiety about a difficult conversation. Their old pattern is to try harder. They spend hours rehearsing what they will say, trying to predict every possible response, and attempting to psych themselves up to not feel anxious. They enter the conversation feeling tense and defensive, and their energy immediately puts the other person on guard. Now, imagine a different way. Before the conversation, they acknowledge their fear. They say to themselves, "I am feeling anxious about this, and that is okay." Their goal is not to eliminate the anxiety, but to have the conversation alongside it. They enter the room with the intention of listening, of speaking their truth simply, and of allowing the feeling of anxiety to be present without letting it command them. The anxiety is a passenger in the car, but it is no longer in the driver's seat. So how do we begin to practice this art of strategic surrender? It begins with a shift in our relationship with our own thoughts and feelings. One simple yet profound mindfulness exercise is the practice of labeling and letting be. When a difficult thought or a painful feeling arises, our habit is to immediately engage with it, to fight it, to believe it, to become entangled in its story. The practice is to simply notice it and give it a gentle, neutral label. When the thought, "I am going to fail" arises, you can silently say to yourself, the "I'm going to fail" story. When a wave of anxiety washes over you, you can label it, "This is anxiety." You are not judging the thought or feeling. You are not trying to push it away. You are simply acknowledging its presence, like noticing a cloud passing in the sky. After you label it, you gently return your attention to something tangible, like the feeling of your feet on the floor or the sensation of your breath moving in and out of your body. This practice creates a small but crucial space. It is the space between you and your experience. You are not your thoughts. You are the one who is aware of your thoughts. Another gentle practice is to engage with this paradox through journaling. When you have a quiet moment, you might sit with a question like this: what would it feel like to allow this feeling to be here, just for a moment, without needing to fix it? Write about your fear of doing so. Write about what you think would happen if you stopped fighting. This is not about resigning yourself to a life of suffering. It is a thought experiment in non-resistance. What if you could treat a feeling of sadness not as an enemy to be vanquished, but as a visitor to your home? You do not have to like the visitor. You do not have to let it stay forever. You are simply practicing the art of letting it be, without the exhausting struggle of trying to force it out the door. The journey away from the trap of reversed effort is a quiet and subtle one. It is the process of unlearning the deeply ingrained belief that we can control our inner world through force. It requires a profound shift in our understanding of strength. True strength is not the force with which you fight your inner storms. It is the courage to sit quietly in the rain, trusting that the sun will eventually return. By shifting your effort from fighting a feeling to simply allowing it to be present, you rob it of its fuel. An emotion that is allowed to exist, that is held with a gentle, non-judgmental awareness, will eventually pass on its own. The path to inner peace is not through a battle, but through a truce. It is the brave and radical act of letting go and discovering the surprising strength that is found not in trying, but in trusting. What if, for the one problem you have been struggling with the most, the solution is not to try harder, but to try softer?